Good afternoon, everyone. I'll welcome you on the international stage of Equal Care Day 2023. Also special welcome to Bruno and Flavio, who are joining us today. My name is Jana Rapp, and I'm part of the Equal Care Day initiative. And I have to say this panel is truly international, as we're spread across Germany, Italy, France, and Brigitta, who's joining us from Austria. So that is probably the ideal condition to discuss the matter of how to join forces for a European culture of care. And just a heads up, this panel will not be a classic presentation discussion panel, but rather an experimental work in progress talk, which I'm excited for. So yeah, our guests of today are Flavio Lotti and Bruno. I think I'm mispronouncing it. You will have to put it. Okay. From the Italian organization Tavola, della, and later on, I hope we'll be joined by Brigitta Villaronga, who's an expert on international cooperation. Oh, she just entered the meeting. Okay, perfect. But yeah, before we go on, maybe each of us can shortly introduce themselves. And Flavio, maybe do you want to start?
Yes, Jana, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Flavio Lotti. I'm the Italian coordinator of the Italian Peace Roundtable, and I am also the director of the Italian coordination of local authorities for peace and human rights. I mean, I'm very happy to be here today with you. Bruno?
Hi, Jana, Flavio, hi, Brigitta. So I'm Bruno Cooren. I'm originally from France, as you will hear from my accent, but for family reasons, now live and work in Italy and a little bit everywhere in Europe, I should say. I've been for 20 years a senior manager in culture and international relations at municipal level when I was in France. And since I am in Italy, so it's been 2 years, I've been working as a freelance, teaching at university, doing consulting work and research. And I'm very happy to be here today. I have a special attachment to Germany because I lived there for almost 4 years of my life. And I've been working with Flavio for now more than 20 years. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary, I think, and in different functions. And I do some collaboration work with Tavola per la Pace, the Italian Peace Roundtable, to help Flavio and the organization to establish its European networks and work at international level. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you. Brigitta, do you want to also introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. And I was sitting in the audience, and which is why I was listening to you and said, oh my God, I have to change, I have to go to the link. So here you have me. Here means my feet are touching the ground in South Tyrol. It's part of Italy. And I'm in the Basis, which is a former military barrack, and nowadays a social innovation hub. And it's a urban space, means building bridge between city and rural areas. And this is exactly why I'm here. I love to be here. It feels like being in Berlin, where I've been living before, but in the middle of lovely Alps. So I've been an international manager for 15 years, and then I decided that I don't want to do that anymore. I want to invest my time in more, let's say, more purposeful, even more purposeful. I was in development cooperation working in South America and worldwide. And now I'm trying to build bridges between Germany, Italy, between yesterday, tomorrow, digital, analog. So all the time facilitating participatory processes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, and also I'm not only going to be moderating this talk, but I'm also part of the Equal Care Day initiative. I've been part of it since 2020. I've supported and worked in different areas ranging from public communication. Right now it's mostly on the administrative side, or sitting with you here in this panel. And when I'm not dedicating my time to the Equal Care Day, I'm studying social sciences with a great interest also in feminist thinking. Yeah, so I would start now with explaining the our idea, maybe the German perspective, let's call it, of the Equal Care Day, and also the idea of this talk. And then Flavio and Bruno will continue to present their initiative, and then we're going to round it all up with a talk together with Brigitta about our common grounds, the strategies, and how we could work together in the future. And I also want to point out to the audience that you have the possibility to put questions into the chat. If you walk a little bit to the right with your avatar of the stage, yeah, the chat should pop up. I'll have an eye on that. Yeah, so the underlying idea of the Equal Care Day is that many societal injustices and inequalities, such as lower wages of pensions of females or lower life expectancy of males, can be boiled down to the unequal distribution of care and the devaluation of it. And in order to raise public awareness, Almut Schnerring and Sascha Bella initiated the first Equal Care Day on February 29th in 2016. And so the symbolic Leap Day is also supposed to underline how care work is made invisible. And especially the last 3 years really have shown how little appreciation there is from political and economic actors for care work. And unfortunately, basically, it is us, the civil society, who has to put pressure on politics and economy. And so the Equal Care Day wants to provide a platform for different organizations of civil society to support each other, to come together and join forces. And quite ironically, only through the pandemic and the new possibilities of communication digitally, our initiative was able to grow within Germany. But we also think, coming from that experience, that this is the foundation to go further now into a more European arena. So we have connections to Turkey, Spain, Iceland now, Czech Republic and Italy. But we're very much at the beginning of identifying the actors we could potentially work with. And so we're really happy to have Tavola della with us today. And this panel is supposed to start this process of thinking internationally, of beginning a discussion on what contents or goals could be interesting for both of us, what questions we have for the future, and what framework we want to work together. And I think, yeah, we bring lots of questions to the table, and I think lots more will emerge today, and maybe already some answers. We will see what will happen. And so with that said, yeah, Flavio and Bruno, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jana. Thank you for this introduction. I'm very happy to share with you some ideas, and afterwards I will leave the floor to Bruno. So we will continue our discussion before hearing Brigitta. So let me say that I want to thank you, first of all, for creating the Equal Care Day. It was a beautiful surprise for me to discover that we started in Italy to, let's say, to work on the idea of care as an instrument for transforming society and transforming the future, exactly in 2016, in the same year when you started. We begin in September, so it was after your 29th of February. But this sounds nice. I wanted to underline this thing because sometimes there are activity that goes on without we know, and sometimes they emerge. let me say that for us today is a very special day because for the first time we have promoted the Equal Care Day in Italy in a fantastic dimension. We invested mainly in the involvement of youth and the schools. And I'm very pleased to say that from the calculation that we have at the moment, from the data we have, today at least 80,000 students were involved in activities in 144 cities. We have published the list of schools, the list of activities, and the list of cities that in which all these activities have been realized. Some of them are still going on. And really, it is something very special because what was the main idea? The idea is that we invited the students and the schools to discover who is taking care of them, who is taking care of the other, who is taking care of the life of the planet. So each one of the school have decided how to do it, and now we have at least 25 pages of activities printed already. That's the positive news in a context which is very, very serious. We are celebrating this day, this Equal Care Day 2023, during a war, a very, very bad war in Europe, and many other wars are going on in the world without without having somebody who is taking care of the victims. And only 2 days ago, 65 at the moment children and women and youth died only 150 meters from the coast in the south of Italy, and they were all running from away from the war in Syria and in the other in the countries nearby. That's very, very sad, and this is one of the example of the global crisis of care that we are living. There is now we are paying the highest price for not having taken care of the planet, for not having taken care of the people, of the injustice, that are and the human rights violations that are really spreading in the world. So as you mentioned, the COVID pandemic was one, but it is only one of the biggest events that are pointing out the reality of negligence in which we are at the moment. This is why we really believe that it is important to spread, first of all, to reverse the priorities and to start putting care instead of competition at the center of our society. We are very much interested in developing in Italy all the concrete proposals that the Equal Care Day in Germany is promoting. What I can tell you that since 2006, we are trying to invest in the youngest generations. First of all, we are trying to help them to learn how to take care of themselves, how to take care of the others, how to take care of the planet, and why it is in our interest and in their interest to learn to take care of the others and the planet. Of course, working on education require a lot of time, require continuity, and this is what we are trying to do at the moment. The second track, Bruno will speak more on this, is the goal of building the cities of care. The cities of care. What are the cities of care? We believe that care needs organization. To promote the culture of care means to promote a policy and an economy of care, not only a society of care. This is why we believe that we have to start from below. We have to start from the cities, from the places where the people are living. And one of our dreams is to build a European network of cities of care. So that's one of the idea. So I think that in the future, we have to learn a lot about your approach to more equal care in ordinary daily life, but also in the society. This is one of the key content we need to develop. And at the same time, we can share experiences on education of care, how to promote the culture of care in the society, especially among the youth, the young generations. And maybe we can work together also on the cities, what the cities can do practically from below. Thank you. Bruno.
Thank you, Flavio. You already said a lot. And in fact, it's an important day in Italy because of this National Day, first National Day of Care. And maybe what we could specify, it's not by chance that this happens today. It's because we have had, since the end of 2021, this relation with Equal Care Day, Sasha, Almut, and all the colleagues involved. And it's been from the very beginning, it's been a stimulating cooperation, I would say, exchange, in that we come from different stories. Equal Care Day come really from the idea of promoting social justice in the distribution of care activities. That is the main point, and coming maybe specifically also from feminist circles, and then enlarged to also a particular attention to those minorities who have a disproportionate share of the burden. Speaking of Italy and our organization, we come from the peace movement, and as Flavio said, there was a need to revive the reflection about peace and how, especially, you can promote it in a world that is not necessarily characterized by universal peace. On the contrary, Flavio gave a couple of examples. So the idea was, in fact, to use more or less care in order to create a peaceful society, peaceful communities, from the community level to the global level. And it's because we started looking for partners at European level that in Germany, Almut and Sasha reacted to our message and said, yeah, well, it rings a bell. But we were yet coming from different paths. I would say that in as far as we are concerned, our motivation is really to promote a culture of care, 360 degrees. That is to say, to really touch all kinds of issues, all kinds of sectors, all kinds of actors. Because our analysis is that maybe for, let's say, centuries, care was maybe an obligation in a way. Not that the people really chose, but they were within structures and organizations that brought the individual to have a caring attitude to the other. So to the other. I'm not now idealizing a lot at all the past, but there have been a number of events in the world's history in the, let's say, 30, 40 years ago, last year, sorry, that basically reduced the pressure or the encouragement, rather, for the individuals to have a caring attitude to either the other or, as Flavio said, the planet, which is also a huge issue. So our concern is to try today to find the means to reactivate this culture of care, and this time not in terms of obligation, but in terms of understanding why we're doing that and what are the benefits for societies, for communities, for the world, but also very egoistically for oneself, because as we know, that when we care for others, this is very satisfactory in terms of individual experience, even though it's not what we should aim at, but it's let's say a sort of side effect that is quite interesting. So that's where we're very complementary. Equal Care Day focusing really on the justice of the distribution of work of care activities, and we in Italy more looking at maybe a brighter picture, but of course, and we could test that with a number of municipalities, which is, let's say, the core of our organization. We could test the idea of a better distribution of care activities in Italian society, and it certainly rang a bell. So it will be interesting, maybe in the next months and years, to also have a special focus on that question in Italy, which is completely concerned by this topic. So as Flavio said, where could we go? Well, and why work at the European level? Work at European level because now it's our, unless there are more Brexits, but it seems that they calm down a little bit everywhere in Europe. Well, our destiny is, our future is to be more and more connected to each other. So it's today, and I think maybe it's more natural for the Germans than for Italians or French people, for example. It has to become a kind of reflex to work at EU level, because it's our level of political organization, of citizenship in many respects, and so on and so on. So the second thing is that the issues we're facing, the cause of the lack of a culture of care, are not necessary at local level. They're not even necessary exactly at societal level in our own countries. They are more at the global level, because all the, let's say, turmoil that we've been experiencing in the last 40 years, they were not necessarily linked to one society, but they were sort of global phenomenon. I want to talk about what Flavio said about competition. Where competition comes from, it comes from the neoliberal wave starting in the 70s, and that is not something we know. It's not something we can fight against in our very small countries. So if we really want to go to the roots of the problem, we need to find a critical mass. And so of course you can go to the UN, and in fact UN Women is a partner of Equal Care Day, so that's a very important connection. But as we know, things at global level are complicated to deal with. So at least there is a level that today could really bring a change, a momentum, an important change, and it would be to act at EU level in terms of changing the software that we've been using. The software that EU has been using is that of competition, and with maybe some aspects that are quite interesting in terms of competitivity, productivity, etc. I don't deny it, but with also lots of damages in terms of how individuals, actors, players in society work with each other. We are like competitors all the time, and that would be quite interesting. And there have been signs at the highest level. There was a speech by Ursula von der Leyen, was right after the COVID crisis, when she came to the European University Institute in France, and delivered a speech on the State of the Union, when she said really clearly, I can send you the quote at the beginning of a talk, or at the end of the talk, was it? She said, in fact, what we need, using a local example, what we need is a culture of a European culture of care. She said it's the head of the commission. So I think that's, yeah, now maybe COVID is gone, so maybe things we've moved towards something else. But I think that's, you know, it's something that could really be a new paradigm in the organization of the union. But for that, we need actors. And just to finish, I've been too long, I'm sorry about that. What we probably lack is today an understanding by many people, by citizens, players, of what care means. Because usually care is just seen from a point of view of medical care, social work, that kind of thing. And basically, it's much larger than that. And that is why it's complicated to today bring people, and that's why we were very happy that Equal Care Day reacted to our letter, is that what we need is a new paradigm, and bringing really care as a fundamental, let's say, orientation that societies could take.
Thank you, Flavio and Bruno. I think you really mentioned some extremely important points. Really also support your statement that it needs a new paradigm, and it's also important to point out really the basis of it, meaning neoliberal processes that have been going on. And but yeah, not beyond the analysis. And I think that's what we share, our diagnosis of what is going wrong. I think you also mentioned some overlaps already that we can now start discussing here in this round. And I also want to encourage the audience to put questions into the chat. And I actually have a question myself first, because you mentioned that there are so many activities and 144 cities with 80,000 students. Could you maybe give an example of what kind of activities we would have to imagine?
Yes, it's very simple. What we suggested them, and they are doing it, is first of all to go out of school. To go out of school, not to speak about care into the classrooms, but to go out in the city and to look for the places where there are concrete activities of care. I give you some examples, concrete examples. First of all, for example, in Perugia, this morning, there were around, I think, 15 or 16 meetings at the same time in many different places. We had one in the hospital to look for how the work of the people who are working in the emergency cares, or they went to see and meet the people who are helping the families of the people, of the young people that are recovered in the hospitals. Or another group went to see an association who help the people, the homeless people, and the poor people who does not have enough money to buy food or to provide, I mean, the basic needs. Another group went to meet the mayor of the city to learn what does it mean to care a city, to take care of a city. Another group went to the Procuratore Generale, which means I mean the top figure of the justice institution in Perugia, and they had the opportunity to learn about what it means to take care of justice. Another group went to meet our public television. What does it mean to take care of information, of the local information? Another group went to see how they take care. There is a group who is taking care of animals. How you take care of the animals. Another group went to see to meet the people who are taking care with mental problems. Another group went to meet a group of women who are working to taking care the women which are victims of violence, especially in the house, in the families, and many other stories like this. These are I mean, these were occasion for the students to learn concretely who is taking care of one sector of the society or people in a specific need, or more in general about institution, about democracy, etc. And what I want to underline is that the second part of their job was also to spread what they have learned. So they are involved in community activities during through Instagram, Facebook, and other. When we are collecting all this material also. I mean, just these are a few elements. Of course, there are many other activities. There are people who went in, come si dice, Bruno, una mensa? No, non si sente.
Cafeteria.
Yeah, no, it's no, it's a place for where the people, the poor people will go to eat when they don't have. Sorry, I missed the word.
So kitchen or something like that, maybe.
And some other was taking care of some public areas. Despite today it is raining in most of the Italy, but somehow they were doing practical activities of taking care. And there were also some events to study. For example, I was this morning in a university where there was a focus on the culture of care, and there were many students who are studying about care, and so it was very interesting to develop some more specific idea in about the need of develop the culture of care with a proper idea what does it mean to choose between care and competition, to choose between care and indifference. That's.
Thank you, Flavio. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Did you want to add something, Bruno?
No. I think that, I mean, you will see 22 pages. We will send you 22 pages of a description of the activities. Really, they were very a lot and very different. It depends also if they were children or in a higher school. It depends of their age, of course.
Yeah, we're like, I think I can speak for the whole initiative that we're very impressed by the broad range. And I think what you've mentioned now also reflects this 360 degrees approach. Yeah, and I have to ask, maybe quite naively, because from our experience, we're only starting now to work also with schools. And we, as I said, we find it impressive that you could reach so many people. Because for us, the feeling we're faced with so many stereotypes, it's hard to convince people, or we're just we don't really have that network also, I think. And maybe you could explain a bit more about how you were able to reach all these schools in the first place, because that's something we struggle with.
Yeah, no, I think we should organize a specific seminar on this, because I think there are too many things to be said. But I just want to say that we are working with the schools since '95. So we built a very huge schools network during more than 30 years of activities. So, I mean, and of course, about the working on the culture of care, we started as I said, in 2016, and in a more soft way. And only in 2019, we started with the first national program, which is called Io ho cura, I have care, I'm taking care. And this program is going on. This year, the program is called For Peace with Care. This is the double theme. And so there is an engagement with the schools. It's not just an event that we proposed this year, but this is the result of at least 4 years of permanent, continuous work.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we'll see where we are at maybe in 4 years. I mean, we've already touched upon that topic a little bit, but maybe, Bruno, you could say something more about, well, where do you think are our overlaps, and what do you find maybe promising with this initiative, with working with us?
Well, one of the overlap is your interest of, and since the beginning of your history, to work with municipalities, to work with cities as territories or as organizations. And that is really something we have in common. As I said earlier, the basis of organization are municipalities, provinces, or regions, which are the 3 main levels of political administrative organization in Italy. And even though we now have a number of players, including the schools, the high schools, universities, etc., organizations, NGOs with which we work in the charity sector as well. Now the basis is with the municipality. So, and as Flavio says, it's certainly in a time of reconstructions, in terms of reconstruction of societies, the local level is an interesting level, because states, nations pass, the municipalities remain, the people remain, the areas remain. People who need to take care of this organization, they remain on spot. And certainly by multiplying, and Flavio gave you a number of good examples, that is to say, to have little interactions, even very little, but multiplied by a number of municipalities, makes a difference. It's what probably states are not that, or the EU is not are not able to do in a such efficient way. Of course, this requires, as Flavio said about the schools, it requires to be on spot and to be really in constant, not only contact, but interacting, motivating, giving input to municipalities where the political and the administrative staff, I think we can speak generally, not only about Italy, is not always aware of certain issues. And so we have certainly a role to play in bringing important issues such as care to the local politicians, to the administrators, to the different players of the city, so that they can invent. And that is our role also to activate and to motivate them through different techniques. Brigitta talked about participatory democracy. Participation is about also education, pedagogy, and giving the keys of the people to then express points of view and be creative in terms of action. So to answer your question, I think that if we could manage to bring not necessarily immediately the cities themselves, but many players within the cities, like schools, for example, who, like in Germany, I think it's the same thing, primary level, Grundschule, that also depends on municipalities, I think. So in Italy, that's the case. And or for instance, libraries, for example. Libraries are new places now, or rather old places that are newly rediscovered, and where there are lots of events happening, at least in progressive cities, in order to bring people, citizens in contact with cultural activities. We could imagine, having a number of schools or libraries on both sides of the border, although there is the Austria in between, to interact with each other. And if they don't speak the language, which probably is the case, go through English, which is kind of mandatory everywhere. So that could be something very concrete around which then we trigger something that then can catch the interest of administrators, of politicians, and around an event, for example, and that can then that can trigger a movement, because you can always invite people to a forum about the issues we're discussing today. If that hasn't been worked with the people, and so that they get convinced, they won't come. So it's something that's around concrete events or involvement of special actors, players, that we can maybe start something between. Of course, the idea is to start between Germany and Italy, but to get the interest of other countries, EU countries as well. That is immensely important. Immensely important. Did I answer your question, Jana?
Yes, very much. And I would agree with you that it's important in order to reach that critical mass you have mentioned before, it's crucial to work with the presumably little players. And I think what we are doing right now mostly is what you said, like organizing more of these panels and forums and reproducing kind of the topic. I mean, it's also important, obviously, to get ahead, but still we really need to think about that approach of, for example, to reach schools, and we've started with that now, but yeah, it's going slowly, but I think within a European framework there's lots of possibilities. And maybe Brigitta, you can tell a bit from your experience in how far this is a wise approach, and well, what kind of strategies would you maybe advise us, or what things we should think about? Just yeah.
Well, first, I would like to share some interesting fact that today, 1st of March, because I'm doing leadership trainings for German managers that are part of a French company in the third, how do you say that? Seniorenresidenzen, the
elderly homes.
Yeah, elderly homes. And today was a day of celebration. You know why? Because in Germany, finally, they don't have to wear the masks anymore after 3 years. You can't believe how happy managers were, also, of course, for their residents and for the families and everybody. Just to mention that it's just a coincidence, but it's an interesting coincidence. It has to do a lot with care. I don't know, you, Flavio, Bruno, and you, Jana, probably what we all have experienced is, although we want to be approaching the higher levels, be it international, be it European, it always depends on people. So it's human beings making the difference. And as Jana was sharing, what you guys, in this case, I can say that, Flavio and Bruno, reached, what you accomplished, is really thrilling. And I'm happy to be here. Normally, Almut, the initiator, would love to be here with you, but she can't duplicate herself. And I'm just a humble person to facilitate some parts of the processes that have been taking place within this association, within this big, great pro bono team behind the scenes making this day happen. And this is why she was asking me, now that you are between the walls and that you are, let's say, in this interesting European geographical location between Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Italy, trying to bring people together and creating those important connections, could you please try to link? And this is where I want to come to. Either it's some extraordinary people that are normally greatly connected, as you seem to be, because otherwise you wouldn't have had even the Pope there being looking at your initiative. So Almut is really, in a way, admiring what you have accomplished. And in my experience of the past, I was once leading leading is a big word, trying to design and to implement a universal healthcare health coverage program between Germany, 2 different units in the development cooperation, and the World Bank. So we had 4 different cultures on board of this program. It was hell. And if it wouldn't have been people making the difference, it wouldn't have worked out, of course. So I think the first thing is really to try to connect some dots and see what wants to emerge, and then really do some strategic coalition building, but around willing people, right? Otherwise no way to really come to something that is effective enough. So this place, this is why I was mentioning it, is really special. And it's like an important dot in northern Italy. I think in south of Italy, many even don't know that Alto Adige is part of Italy. But still, it's an interesting transition between countries, tribes, nations, whatever you want to call it, in the center of Europe. And we could see if this could be bridging, So Almut was really hoping, and this is what I wanted to say with this World Bank project, there's a spillover effect, right? So if you in Italy are part of the Equal Care Day that was born in Bonn, let's say, in Germany, and we are also happy to mention that there were 80,000 students and much more than 100 cities in Italy being part of this. And then we have Steiermark in Austria being part. It's organically growing. So I don't think that there could be any strategic planning or any 5-year whatever, but emergence and trying to link the right key actors that are not only willing, but really good connected, and then see knocking some doors. You mentioned Ursula von der Leyen. There is also a bit of luck in it, I guess. But yeah, so this is what comes to my mind, how we could proceed. And some interesting thing is I would to link it to 2 different initiatives, approaches. Did you hear about the inner development goals? Did that come to your screen? Yeah, Bruno is nodding. So the SDGs, we have until 2030 to reach the Sustainable Development Goals. And there is an approach saying no outer change without inner change, without inner work. And this is exactly when Flavio is talking about this more care, less competition, and let's create a European culture of care. And by the way, I will post this right away after this conversation on LinkedIn, because this is how you also lobby, right? So this requires inner development, as you are doing with the students. So if those students already start now, this is the generation that will cultivate that culture of care, hopefully. And they will take care of us, hopefully. My daughter will. I think it could be really interesting to link it to the Inner Development Goals movement and to a specific approach that we also have in Germany. It's called like the participatory regions. We all know that from the future conferences and stuff that we have been doing during the last 30 years. But there are new approaches that we could nicely link and then see what we could do. And maybe meet up here in Basis Venosta in fall around the inner development goals, because it has much to do with the 5 dimensions of those goals, which is being, really be interrelated, the interbeing as we call it, think, relate, collaborate, and act. And it could be really interesting to link it to all these topics instead of thinking in silos, bring it all together. And Tavola della seems to be a really broad basis. And Jana, when we were talking before with Almut, she said, in Germany, we don't have something like Tavola della We don't have this container or initiative that links so many actors, societal actors. So we could learn something from there and have spillovers. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brigitta. That was very insightful. And yeah, it's true that we have not thought about, those initiatives like the IDGs, for example. That's why it's good that we have you here, because I feel that we stay in the circle of feminist, thinking, and then it's really hard to get to other actors. But really, there's so much already happening that we can just jump onto. But maybe Bruno and Flavio, you have something to comment on that.
Flavio, you want to go? Well, I agree with many things you said. I mean, all you said, in fact. And what struck me is your insistence of identifying the right people. Because you can have the best reasons to have 2 institutions work with each other if you don't have the people, who are able to move slightly on the left, on the right, and trying to understand the other story. Then of course you never have a perfect match, and people most of the time want to have the perfect match. In international relations, it's as you know, it's impossible. So I think that it's by doing that we're managing and having, I think, an ambitious project. I think so that's important to think big, to think, bring as much gray matter as possible, collective intelligence, and then have a number of very distilled points on which we focus, and then not necessarily want to have the big thing now, but to be incremental and have a number of convinced people, having even small projects, but being able to communicate about them and linking them in networks. I think it's the way we will manage. So that would be interesting to test a number of things, and we know we don't have any time, and nobody has time, especially for European international work. We lack human resources, we lack money. I think it's our common characteristic. So maybe let's think big in terms of, let's say, objectives, but small and very focused, with good communication, working in networks for maybe connecting two schools in Germany, one in Italy, that want to work on, for example, the issues of Equal Care Day Deutschland, the just distribution of caring activities. Maybe that's something we could do. We could see how many schools we can bring in the project and have a sort of training agreement. And then communicate, and say that's the first step of a spread of European culture of care. Yeah, something like that. I don't know what you think about it.
I think you actually started talking with this on with
Let's say that.
Sasha.
Yeah, actually, that's what I wanted to say. The idea is not even mine. It's actually Sasha's idea at the beginning.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention it because we have, I think it's been a year now, that we, or not, the mental load team developed a workshop concept for schools called Mental Load at Next Generation, that's supposed to raise awareness within, like, among students, because yeah, our work has been mostly focused on, let's say, people that that fall into this care trap kind of in there when they have children themselves, and then they only start to realize, but we realized, like, we have to start way in the beginning of that in order to overcome this. And so, as you said, that would be, I mean, there's material there that can be translated, that can be worked with, because also I also want to stress this point that you made, that I think we both lack the financial and also the human resources, and that's something we have to also think about in how we work together, because we're also, like, working on edge basically, and also think of how to financially cover this. And also, maybe, do you, like, Brigitta, do you have any maybe, I don't know if you're an expert on this, but tips on that, because we also lack just the knowledge of it, to be honest.
You mean regarding fundraising?
Yeah.
This is an own industry, all right?
Yes.
We should find a generous foundation that want to promote noble causes and cooperation between Germany and Italy. There should be some benevolent billionaire having a villa in Tuscany, willing to give us a couple of dimes in order to have projects between schools in Germany. That exists, I'm sure, but I haven't identified them yet.
You just have to find the right people, as we said. Yeah.
Anyway, if I might, I agree, of course, with all that have been said. I just say, I want to say that we should be thinking of planning some activities before the next Equal Care Day 2024. We should not just prepare the event next year, but also we should try to plan which kind of steps we can have in preparation of it. And I also hope that we can also see each other personally sometimes, because I think we staying together sometimes maybe we can also develop more ideas and also give and find new energy for realizing it. But I'm positive. I think that the Europeans will soon realize that either they continue into the let's say the disaster, or they have to develop the culture of care in practical, because this is just, it is not just a culture, it is a way of living. It is a way of redefine the priorities of our society, also in institutionally, financially way. So I think I mean, we are spending a lot of money to follow the disasters, and we should put some money to prevent the next disasters. So I think we have a chance to promote new activities and enlarge the involvement of the people. So let's study, think, work better on the path that we could follow till we will reach next year Equal Care Day 2024.
Yeah, actually on exactly this topic, I just talked to Ahmed that, I mean, this is a symbolic day, but really the important work happens in between the Equal Care Days. So I really agree with you on that. Okay, so does anyone have further questions or something she wants to bring to the table?
I found the English version of Ursula von der Leyen's speech in France. So you have indeed, it's really crystal clear. If she believes in these words, that's a good sign for the rest of her mandate, the Commission, for as far as care is concerned. I'm not sure now she's completely focusing on these issues anymore, but at least she said these words, and I think that's quite easy to see a mirror of what we've said. And yeah, and I was half joking when I was talking about billionaires. Maybe I was just looking at Deutsche Bank Italia, because it's a quite important bank in Italy, and they have a foundation, and I saw that maybe we could that could be interesting for them to support a German-Italian event. I'm not really a fan of banks, but you know, maybe if there's a way to support a good action, we can maybe accept that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Grazie. Merci.
Merci.
Thank you, all of you. Grazie.
Thank you also from my side. Yeah, and I think we'll see each other then soon, I hope. Thanks also for the audience for listening. And yeah, also thank you, Brigitta, for joining us. And I hope you'll also be by our side maybe as a facilitator.
Facilitator is really halfway between Bonn and
Exactly.
Perugia.
Waiting here at the Basis.
Yes, yes, that's a good idea. Okay.
Be well. Ciao.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
you.
Thanks, Jana, and thanks.
Jana, thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Bye.